Hey everybody, welcome back to another Dead by Daylight video. So today's video, I wanted to talk about a concept for how ranked could work in Dead by Daylight, because I think 2v8 is kind of the answer to this. I've talked about this a few times in some of the podcasts, I've talked about this a few times on stream, which you should follow by the way, and check, I'm live 3 days a week. In any case, I think 2v8 has actually shown us how this could be possible. So what are some of the issues with ranked before we get into how I think it could be implemented? Some of the bigger issues with ranked are perks. I think perks are probably the biggest problem, and add-ons, and we'll get into add-ons as well, but I think perks are the biggest issue. The problem is, because how the game is balanced, basically a ranked mode would really boil down to what the game kind of already boils down to, where you're going to only see the same about 20 perks every single match, and 20 is being generous. But that's really what the biggest issue is, that the variety isn't going to be there. Same thing with killers. The problem with the killers is you would then have to balance the killers for a ranked mode as well as the normal mode. And that can lead to a lot of issues with the average player base versus the top 1% versus the not-so-great players. And it would lead to two forms of balancing that would have to be counteracted simultaneously, which is where I think this idea of classes that 2v8 has introduced kind of solves this problem. So I'm going to start with the Survivor side, and then we'll move to the Killer side and how I think it could work for there. For Survivor, I think we already have the answer. So for my proposed idea for a ranked mode would be very simple. Take the 2v8, make it 1v4 like it is now. Have a map pool that rotates, so it would be about 5 maps every day, every hour, or whatever it is, rotates simultaneously. The reason I want the maps to rotate is because I think it would mean some killers would get more time to shine, some killers would have less, there would be times when survivors have more of an advantage, and killers would have more of an advantage, etc., etc. And I think it could be interesting in that way. And this would also mean that no map offerings from either side, because I think map offerings, even in the base game, shouldn't exist, but especially in a ranked mode. But for the Survivor, we could just use the idea of the classes to determine what you're going into the match with. The way the classes work, especially in the current version of 2v8, is basically they are their own perks. They're basically about 3 or 4 perks together, but in a certain archetype, basically. Healer, someone, gen jockey, chaser, and then someone who's there for intel. Now, obviously, there would need to be more. I mean, I think we still need someone who can deal with totems, someone who can deal or who can make boons. I think there's something to be with like chest, a flashlight saver, sabotaging. Like, there's a lot of different things you could do here and add in different classes to my proposed ranked mode, or even the current 2v8 mode, and I think that could be a great way there. So one of the biggest problems with removing perks, which is an idea I've heard before, to make a ranked mode work, is that if you remove perks, it kind of removes a lot of what makes Survivor fun. And while I've heard the same sentiment for the class system, this would kind of alleviate that a bit if you make enough of them. The other thing with that is I would want to make it so that survivors can't stack classes. It would be 1 class per character. That way, it's a lot more varied, and there's synergies that can be made. You can't kind of like abuse like, oh, well, 2 medics can heal someone in like 2 seconds. Like, you can't abuse that kind of stuff. So I think that would be a good way to go about it. Now, is it perfect? No, of course not. But moving on to the killer side, I wanted to talk about them. So the current iteration of 2v8 has the class system as well, which is what I would also like to bring in for the killers. This would be the same thing on the Survivor end as far as perks go. You could have a totem setup, a gen regression setup, a chase setup, one that's about information and an aura reading. And you could balance these individually. That's the other thing about this, that would not affect the perks that are in the current game mode. Which also leads us into the other thing that 2v8's done, which has given a lot of the killers their add-ons base. And I think this is a huge thing and something that makes me want this more and more every day. Because the reason why this works for a ranked mode is because it means that the killers can keep their exact same balance that they have in the normal mode, in pub games and the normal trials and such. But because they don't have access to add-ons in the ranked mode or in 2v8 as of now, you can balance the killers by giving them their add-ons base, or maybe even increasing the numbers of those on those add-ons to compensate for them. For example, Myers, you can give him a stalking speed add-on, you can give him tombstone base in some way, shape, or form, maybe nerf it, maybe buff it for the stalking and such like that. For Trapper, you can give him a Trapper bag, like base kit, in the ranked mode only, but again, he can't pick his add-ons. Maybe give him trap setting speed base. Like, there's a lot of things you can do that they're already showing that they have been doing in the current 2v8 mode. And then again, the class system that they currently have, like the Bruiser class and things like that, can definitely fit into it to add a way to add variety of perks without actually adding the perks in and having to worry about the balancing of each perk. Perks then become more of an idea to jump off of to make more classes rather than just this perk is the best in there. Now, a ranked mode wouldn't be perfect in this game because of how some killers are stronger than others, of course, but this would be a way for them to also alleviate the balancing of some killers. For example, Nurse in this mode, you could make her base and then have none of her add-ons, right? And then you can give Trapper like 6 or 7 of his add-ons to make him better. And while not on the same level as Nurse, he'll never be that, but it would help alleviate some of his issues. The other problem I would have in this would be, what about solo queue versus Swift? Now, my proposed idea for ranked mode, I don't think Swift should be a thing. In most games, or not in most games, but in a game like League of Legends, they don't have the ability. You can play flex queue, but it's a very rare thing and people don't do it. Most people still play the ranked mode in solo. And the only reason duo kind of exists is mostly just because of bot lane. At least I'm almost 100% confident that's the only reason duo exists, because of the bottom lane. But enough talking about League of Legends. I really think to keep the balance of the game, I think solo queue would have to be the only option. Maybe solo or duo, and that would be the max no 4-man. And then we can go from there. This would also mean that some killers would obviously have more of an advantage, but again, we can individually nerf the killers with the add-ons and the proposed changes to their powers in this mode specifically. Now, again, it's not a perfect system, but I think if this game was to get a ranked mode, which I think it, at this point with how long it's been around, I think it kind of needs one, and it would be nice to have that place to go if you want to play a little bit harder. I think it's about time that we've had it. Many people have suggested it. Behavior has been asking about it in a lot of their surveys, and this is my proposed idea on how to do it. Again, if you guys don't like the idea, let me know down below. I really want to hear people's thoughts on this. Every time I brought this up to somebody, it's often met with like a huh, and then like once I start explaining it, a lot of people are okay with it. This is obviously a YouTube video. I can't go into like the finer details and be perfect with it, but I think this is a general idea on how we could do it. Just take the ideas we have from 2v8, make it 1v4, there you go, and I think we can make a ranked mode work in this game. In any case, I love you guys. Have a good one, and yeah, bye.
Subscribe, damn it. I'll be back. I always come back, and so should you, you moron.